The next morning, I woke up to the sun shining through the window and an eerie silence in the house. I got dressed quickly and went straight to the kitchen. He was already there, having breakfast with my parents, smiling as if he were part of the family. Sitting at that table again, with him there, after everything that had happened, made me feel uneasy. But I tried to act normal. After breakfast, he got up and said he had to hit the road. My parents walked him to the door, and I followed close behind, not wanting to miss a moment. Before leaving, he went up to his room to get his backpack. I went with him. In the room for a moment, we were alone. He calmly picked up his backpack, as if he were stretching out time. Then he turned to me, looked me in the eyes, and said, with that calm smile, "Let's plan for you to come over to our house any weekend. What do you think?" "I will. Definitely," I replied, already with a silly smile on my face. He approached me slowly, as if he wanted to record that moment. He put his backpack on the floor and held my face with one hand. Then he kissed me, calm, deep, full of everything we hadn't said yet. When he pulled away, still looking into my eyes, he whispered, "I enjoyed meeting you." I felt a warmth in my chest. I could only smile back, speechless. He picked up his backpack again, and when he walked out the door, my world became quieter. I stood there, watching him drive away down the dirt road, the dust from the car disappearing on the horizon. Everything still felt like a dream, but I knew something had changed, and the story between us was just beginning. Please note that this is part 2 of the story. Part 1 and the uncut version are in the comments. The days passed slowly, as they only do in the countryside, but inside, everything seemed to be moving too fast. Every morning, I woke up thinking about him. Every night, I fell asleep, remembering the taste of his kiss, his touch, that night on the road that had become a milestone in my life. We talked every day, sometimes by text, sometimes by phone, and even if they were simple conversations about the weather, about how our day was going, just hearing his voice was enough to calm everything inside me and set me on fire at the same time. I couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he looked at me before he left, about what we had experienced, about what could still happen. It was hard to concentrate on anything. His scent seemed to linger on the sheets. The image of him lying in bed next to me came back to my mind whenever I closed my eyes. I wanted to see him again, to feel all that again. And deep down, I knew it wouldn't be long. Then, one night, he called me. The voice on the other end of the line was heavy with longing and restrained desire. "I can't stand not seeing you anymore," he said bluntly, with that sincerity that always melted me. "Come here this weekend, please." My heart raced. I felt a warmth wash over me, and a smile escaped without me noticing. "I'll come. Don't worry," I replied without hesitating for a second. As soon as we hung up, I started counting the days, and when the weekend finally arrived, I woke up early, packed my backpack with hands trembling with anxiety, and headed straight for the bus station. The bus ride seemed longer than ever, but my whole body was vibrating with anticipation. When I got off at the small bus station in his town, there he was, leaning against his car, waiting for me with that same smile that had won me over from the first time I saw him. His eyes sparkled when he saw me, and in that moment, everything made sense again. Without saying a word, he opened his arms and I went to him. The hug was tight, silent, full of longing and unspoken promises. And there, in the middle of that ordinary place, I knew what we had was far from fleeting. We went straight to his house. It was a simple but cozy house, the kind that makes you feel at peace just walking in. The walls were painted in light colors, the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and a soft light came in through the living room window. Everything there seemed to reflect him, calm, welcoming, genuine. As soon as he closed the door, he turned to me. His eyes said it all. There were no words, just the impulse hot, urgent, full of longing. He pulled me by the waist and kissed me, a strong kiss, full of desire, but at the same time with that tender touch that only he had. His hands held my face as if to make sure I was really there, for real. I responded without thinking, letting myself be carried away by that intensity that I had missed so much. Time seemed to stop for a moment. It was just the two of us. The house was silent, our bodies pressed together, our breath mingling, and that kiss that seemed to say everything that words couldn't express. There, in that first moment inside his house, I knew that this weekend would mark our history even more. After the kiss in the living room, he pointed with his hand, smiling slightly. "You can leave your backpack in the bedroom. It's over there." I nodded, my heart still racing, and went to the room he had indicated. The room was simple but tidy. A large bed, light-colored sheets, a window with a light curtain letting the late afternoon light in softly. I dropped my backpack next to the bed and started to take off my t-shirt, feeling the heat of my body still burning from the kiss in the living room. That's when I heard the door open behind me. He entered slowly, without saying a word. When I turned around, he was already there, close, with that intense, desire-filled look. He approached silently and kissed me again. A slower, deeper kiss, as if he wanted to savor every second of it. As our mouths met, I felt his hand slide down my bare chest, slowly, as if exploring every part of my body with reverence. His touch was firm, but gentle. Every movement made me shiver. My breathing quickened, and I surrendered completely. He gently pushed me against the wall, his kisses now spreading across my neck, my shoulders. His hands ran down my back, my waist, guiding me with confidence and desire. I was already completely surrendered, body, mind, everything. There, in that room, with the sun setting outside and our bodies reunited, it felt like nothing else existed but the two of us. We made love, without haste, without fear, without needing to hide anything. He laid me down gently on the bed, his eyes never leaving mine. It was as if he was reading me inside, feeling everything I wanted to say but didn't know how yet. His touches were precise, enveloping, giving me goosebumps with every slide of his hands, every lingering kiss on my neck, my chest, my belly. I wanted it so badly. His body, his warmth, his surrender, everything we couldn't fully experience that first time, hidden in the night, afraid of being caught. There was no rush. No guilt. Only desire. Just the two of us. Our bodies met with intensity and delicacy. Every movement seemed to fit perfectly, as if we were discovering a new language made of skin, size, and silence. He looked into my eyes as he touched me, as if he wanted to memorize my every reaction. And I let him, because it felt good, because it felt right, because I wanted it with all my being. It was good. It was beautiful. It was more than I could have imagined, and when it was over, we stayed there, pressed against each other, still panting, but at peace. The world outside seemed distant, and all that mattered was that moment, the warmth of his body against mine, and the certainty that something inside me had changed again. Night fell, bringing a pleasant breeze and a comfortable silence, the kind that fills you rather than disturbs you. After the intense afternoon we spent together, our bodies, our touch, our surrender, he suggested we go out for dinner. I agreed immediately. We walked slowly to a small restaurant with a brick facade and yellow light in the windows. Inside, the place was cozy, with soft instrumental music playing, and the smell of home cooking filling the air. The light was soft, coming from candles and hanging lamps. Everything there seemed perfect, tailor-made for us. We sat at a table further away, in a somewhat hidden corner. Our legs touched lightly under the table, and just that contact made my heart race. He looked at me with that smile that only he has and held my hand over the white tablecloth. I felt the warmth of his skin and let myself go. "Are you comfortable like that?" he asked, caressing the back of my hand with his thumb. I nodded, smiling. "It's perfect." We ordered wine. He let me smell the cork and explained the flavor of the red wine he had chosen, as if he were initiating me into a little ritual that was ours alone. We toasted in silence, our eyes locked on each other. "To us," he said, and my chest warmed at those two little words. "To us," I repeated, smiling. As dinner progressed, the conversation flowed easily. We laughed, exchanged long glances, and caressed each other's feet under the table. Sometimes he would rest his hand on my leg, squeeze my thigh lightly, and I would respond with a touch on his ankle, daring him a little more. He offered me a piece of his meat on his fork, and I accepted, I closed my lips around it, and for a second, we stared at each other with a delicious tension in the air. I knew he wanted me and he knew I wanted more. After refusing dessert and paying the bill, we left the restaurant hand in hand. The night was cool, and he took off his jacket and put it around my shoulders. My heart almost jumped out of my mouth at that gesture. On the sidewalk, I stopped and stared at him under the yellow light of the street lamp. "Thanks for tonight," I murmured. "Thank you," he replied before pulling me into a slow, tender kiss. Right there, on the street, no one around, just the two of us. We walked home in silence, but our bodies understood each other with little touches, smiles, and intertwined fingers. As soon as we entered, he closed the door slowly and turned to me. Our eyes met, and without needing words, we kissed again. A calm, delicious kiss, as if we were savoring every second together. Our bodies fit together naturally, and for a few minutes we stayed there, trapped in that warm, silent embrace, letting the world outside fade away. After the kiss, he took me by the hand, and we went to the sofa. We sat side by side, close together. He put his arm around me, and I leaned against his chest, feeling his breath on the top of my head. We stayed there quietly, just enjoying that moment of peace and togetherness. "Do you like fishing?" he asked suddenly, his voice low, close to my ear. I lifted my face and looked at him, surprised by the question. "I love it. Ever since I was a kid," I replied with a smile. He smiled back, as if he had already expected that answer. "Then let's go fishing tomorrow," he said with that calm and decisive manner. "I'd love to," I replied, excited, already imagining the scene. It was agreed right there, between a caress on my hair and a kiss on my neck. We would leave very early the next day, and inside, I already knew that was going to be another day I would never forget. We woke up early, with the sky still painted in shades of blue and orange. The house was silent, filled with that peace that only exists in the morning, when the world is still waking up. We got up slowly, exchanging sleepy glances and lazy smiles. We grabbed something simple to eat: fresh bread, hot coffee, and some fruit, and organized our fishing gear while still yawning. He handed me a fishing rod carefully, as if he were giving me something important. And I took it with a silly smile on my face, happy just to be there, sharing that routine with him. We got in the car with everything ready, and the drive to the river was smooth. The conversation was quiet, interspersed with comfortable silences, the kind that don't bother you. Sometimes he would put his hand on my knee, or look at me out of the corner of his eye with that smile that always melted me. After a while, we arrived at the river. The view was beautiful. The water flowed calmly, reflecting the already clear sky. The surrounding trees seemed to dance with the light breeze, and birdsong filled the air. A perfect place, isolated, just ours. I looked around, took a deep breath, and felt light, whole. More than that, I felt happy in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Being there, in that beautiful place, with him by my side, always smiling and making sure to include me in everything, it was as if the world was exactly where it should be. He chose a spot further away, near some large rocks, where the shade from the trees made everything cooler. We set up the rods, arranged the bait, and sat side by side, our feet almost touching the water. For a while we were silent, just listening to the sound of the river running and the rustling of the leaves. The line in the water, the glances exchanged from time to time, the slight touch of our shoulders leaning against each other, it was as if everything there was in harmony. Nature, time, us. "This place is incredible," I said, breaking the silence with a smile. "It's my favorite place," he replied, looking at the horizon. "And now it's even better with you here." I looked at him and felt that warmth in my chest again, that feeling that grows slowly but surely when you realize you don't want to be anywhere else but there, with that person. "When I was younger, I used to come here alone," he continued, his voice calm. "Today, I just want to share these moments with someone who makes me feel good." I didn't answer with words. I just reached out my hand to him, right there by the river, and intertwined our fingers. He squeezed my hand back and turned his face toward me, smiling. A serene, beautiful smile that said it all. At one point, a fish pulled on my line, and I almost fell over in surprise. He laughed loudly beside me and helped me pull it in calmly. The fish was small, but the joy was enormous. I laughed, he laughed even more. And in that moment, between laughter and wet hands, we looked like two carefree, free boys. After that, we sat down on the grass. I lay down with my head on his lap while he stroked my hair, looking up at the sky. We stayed like that for a long time, talking about anything, laughing at silly things, and letting time pass slowly. It was all simple, but it was all I needed. As I lay there with my head on his lap and my eyes closed, feeling his fingers slowly running through my hair, I felt him stop for a moment. I slowly opened my eyes and found him looking at me with a tenderness that was hard to explain. He smiled slightly, then said in a low voice, almost as if he were confessing a secret, "You're beautiful." I felt my face flush instantly. I was embarrassed, not knowing exactly what to say, but my heart was beating so hard it felt like it was going to jump out of my mouth. I smiled shyly and replied, looking at him sincerely, "You're more beautiful." He let out a low laugh, the kind that warms you up inside, and leaned in slowly until our faces were very close. Our eyes met for another second, and then we kissed. It was a calm kiss, full of affection and silence. A kiss that didn't need to prove anything or rush. It just existed. Our lips met with a softness that sent shivers down my spine, and I felt completely safe there, in his arms, by the river. When the kiss ended, he rested his forehead against mine, his eyes still closed, breathing slowly. And I understood, without him having to say another word, that this moment was more than special for him too. After lying there for a while, looking at the sky and listening to the sound of the river, we started to get hungry. He laughed, and rubbed my stomach when it growled, teasing me with that mischievous look. "Let's go to the car and get a snack," he asked. "Let's go," I replied, smiling, getting up lazily. We walked slowly to the car, still holding hands, our faces marked by the soft morning sun. He opened the trunk and pulled out the bag with the snacks he had prepared that morning. We sat in the back seat with the doors open, the wind blowing gently, and began to eat in silence, exchanging glances and smiles with each bite. After eating, we stayed there, quiet for a few minutes. The world seemed far away. He turned to me, slowly, and kissed me. It started with a calm kiss, like so many others we had exchanged. But that kiss changed. It became more intense, hotter. His hands moved up to the back of my neck, then down my back. He pulled me closer and started kissing my neck slowly, with his warm mouth and firm lips. I felt my body react immediately. I closed my eyes and let out a sigh. The kiss moved down, first on my shoulder, then on my chest. I was already lost, my heart racing, my skin on fire. He knew exactly how to touch me, how to take me to the edge calmly, with intention. Right there, in the back seat of the car, with the sound of the river in the background and the breeze coming in through the windows, we made love again. With desire, with passion, but also with tenderness. Our bodies moved to a rhythm that was ours alone, and everything around us seemed to disappear. The seat became our refuge. Our clothes came off slowly, our hands exploring, whispers filling the cramped space of the car. Every movement was a confirmation of what we were feeling, a deep, sincere, intense desire. And when it was over, we stayed there, embraced, sweaty, our breathing still uneven. He ran his hand over my face, gave me a calm kiss, and said with a slight smile, "You drive me crazy." I smiled back, lying on his chest, and whispered, "And you make me feel things I never imagined I could feel." Then, still lying in the back seat, we laughed softly, unable to believe what we had just done there, in the middle of nature. That moment seemed like something out of a dream, and it was ours. We cleaned ourselves up as best we could, using the water we had brought and some cloths from the backpack. We got dressed calmly, exchanging knowing glances, shy smiles, and light kisses on the way back until we were ready again. We felt light, relaxed, completely at ease with each other. We returned to our spot by the river and tried to fish a little more, even though we knew that fishing itself was no longer the most important thing. The river continued to flow calmly. The shadows of the trees moved slowly with the wind, and the sun changed position in the sky, announcing the advance of the afternoon. The truth is that we hardly caught anything else. The fishing wasn't good, the fish seemed to have taken the day off. But even so, It was incredible. Just being there with him, listening to the water, sharing the silence, exchanging a few words and smiles, it was more than enough. At the end of the afternoon, we packed everything up and headed home with the car covered in dust and our hearts full of good things. The drive was smooth, and this time, instead of music, we were silent almost the entire time. But it was a pleasant silence, the silence of people who have already said everything with their eyes and gestures. When we got home, we took a quick shower to wash away the day's fatigue and then threw ourselves on the sofa. He pulled me closer, and I nestled into his chest, my head on his shoulder, my legs stretched out, our bodies pressed together. We stayed there for hours, watching anything on TV, some movie I don't even remember, but what mattered was that hug, that warmth. The way he slowly ran his hand down my arm, as if to say, without words, I like having you here. And I liked being there. A lot. Because every second by his side made me feel safer, more certain of our life together. It brought us closer and closer. And deep down, I knew. I didn't want that weekend to ever end. That night, we decided to have dinner at home. He prepared something simple but delicious: scrambled eggs with cheese, buttered toast, and a fresh salad. We sat at the kitchen table as if we were a couple who had been sharing their lives for a long time. We talked about our day, laughed about our failed attempts at fishing, and recalled, with knowing glances, what had happened in the car earlier. After dinner, we went back to the couch and stayed there for hours. We played, cuddled, watched silly things on TV, and laughed like two teenagers in love. He tickled me on purpose just to hear me laugh, and then he hugged me tight, saying he liked the sound of my laughter. It was a light, pleasant night, full of affection. One of those moments when everything seems to be in the right place, and when sleep began to weigh on our eyes, we went to the bedroom without saying much. We just lay down together, hugging, our bodies intertwined, our hearts beating at a peaceful rhythm. We kissed slowly, exchanged a few more touches, a few more whispered words in the dark, and then we just lay there, close together, until we fell asleep. I was going back home the next day, around 10 in the morning. But that night, before falling asleep, all I could think about was how special it had been. And how, even without saying it out loud, something between us had changed forever. I woke up in the middle of the night, not knowing exactly why. The house was silent, only the faint sound of the wind outside coming through the cracks in the window. I turned slowly in bed, still half asleep, and then I saw it. He was lying on his back, breathing deeply, with a peaceful expression on his face. But the bulge under the sheet made it clear what was happening, just like that first time, at my house. It made me smile to myself in the dark. My body reacted before I even had time to think. I approached him carefully, slowly pulling the sheet back until he was exposed. It was a beautiful sight, hot, throbbing, impossible to resist. I leaned in slowly and began to wake him up the way I knew he liked. With the warmth of my mouth, I touched, explored, teased. I felt him move slowly, his breathing change. And suddenly, his hand rested on my head. "My dirty, handsome man," he murmured in a hoarse voice, laughing softly. I continued, now with more desire. Guided by his hand, by desire, by the intimacy that only grows between us. And at that moment, in the silence of the early morning, everything seemed perfect again. When we were satisfied, lying side by side, still breathing heavily and our bodies entwined, he ran his hand over my face, smiled, and kissed me again, calm, warm, full of affection. We cleaned ourselves up in silence, careful not to break the spell of the early morning. Then we went back to bed and hugged again, as if the world outside didn't exist. The day dawned too quickly. Light slowly invaded the room, announcing that it was time to go. I packed my things in silence, with that tightness in my chest that only comes when you don't want to leave. He drove me to the bus station, his hand resting on my leg, the radio low, neither of us saying much because sometimes silence also speaks. When it was time to say goodbye, he pulled me into a tight hug. We stood there for a moment, unhurried, our hearts aching. "We'll see each other again soon," he said, looking into my eyes. "Promise?" I asked, trying to hold back the urge to stay longer. "I promise, as soon as possible." We kissed one last time, with a taste of longing even before the distance. I got on the bus, and from the window, I watched him standing there, looking at me, until the vehicle turned the corner. Now, I just got home. I can still taste his kiss, smell his perfume on my shirt. I confess, I miss him already. If you like this story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And, of course, the uncut version is here in the comments. See you next time.